Hello and welcome and good morning.
This is the worst.
Who's ready for some NFL Week 2 action? I am here smoking on some Holy Grail Kush. If the Lord Himself were to descend from thy holy mountain and smoketh upon the ganja, this would be his selection, no doubt. But we will get right into the questions. We are hitting up again the group chat for Fantasy Sports Advice Network. So if you guys are not familiar, please go check them out. It's a really cool site that kind of congregates like all your social media for fantasy football that you can want all in one place. So yeah, we'll jump right into the questions. But if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. We will prioritize questions in the chat over questions from the peanut gallery. So let's get right into some of these questions.
Riddle me this, Batman.
So we will start with our first question of the day. We're not going to galaxy brain this one. Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels? Look, I get that Jaden Daniels has a fantastic matchup, but this is an easy Jalen Hurts for me. Yes, even without potentially A.J. Brown, I am still very much playing Jalen Hurts above Jaden Daniels. As much as I love the matchup for Jaden Daniels, and I have plenty of DFS shares, yeah, that's too much for me. Survivor League, the Chargers over the Panthers? Question mark, question mark. Like, is that a good choice? Yes, but it does make me nervous. I will say the Panthers look like absolute trash, and they just lost their best defensive player in Derek Brown. So I'm assuming that the Chargers will just be able to run over the Panthers, even at home for the Panthers. I don't expect them to put up much of a fight. However, the Chargers are going to Charger. It's just kind of what they do, but I would expect them to win this game. So I would say yes, but just still always nervous. Half PPR. AJ Brown, if he plays, or Brandon Ayuk. So I wanted to put this question in the show doc just to talk about AJ Brown and also just in principle how I treat injuries like this. I'm an AJ Brown owner. I have him in Scott Fishbowl and in multiple dynasty leagues. Not a ton of redraft, lots of best ball, but not much I can do about him there. But as far as the Scott Fishbowl and the dynasty leagues that I do have him in, I'm not playing him this week. He didn't practice on Saturday, as far as I could tell, and yeah, they play on Monday, so that does give him the extra day. But it also means that I potentially have no backup, especially in dynasty leagues. And I have 26 leagues. I literally just got caught in one of those leagues with my pants down on CMC last week because they were prognosticating that he was supposed to play. I didn't have Jordan Mason because it's a dynasty league. He was already gone, and I wasn't able to trade for him. So, I didn't have any other viable plays that were going to replace Christian McCaffrey. It was like, even if I put in Jawan Jennings, like, they weren't replacing McCaffrey's points. So there just was not a viable option. And I ended up taking the L in that league. And I don't want to get caught the same way with AJ Brown. So if you're telling me that, especially again, talking about dynasty leagues where my options are even more limited, I will take the guy that I know is healthy playing on the Sunday, like if I have viable options. So kind of two rookies that I'm looking at this week, Brian Thomas Jr. and Lad McConkey. Honestly, I would throw them both in as flex plays and kind of bump up my other wide receivers. So again, it really depends on the formatting and depth of your league and the construction of your roster. So, if you somehow have Jahan Dotson, uh, or you have another actual viable play for that Monday game, and you want to just wait and see if AJ Brown will play, that's totally feasible, and you should do that. If you don't have that option, though, I would take the guaranteed points. And in a situation like this, 10-man leagues where you tend to have a couple really good wide receivers, especially if it's only you're starting two wide receivers. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk, even though he had a bad game last week, I think he could absolutely bounce back, especially with CMC being absent. Maybe they throw the ball a little bit more, and he's healthy. I'm going to take that guy playing against Minnesota because I know for sure he's going to be there, compared to A.J. Brown, who may or may not play and may or may not be limited and may or may not re-injure himself. You're giving me way too many caveats there already. So I would just take the guy that I know is guaranteed. Okay, this was a fun question. Battle of the Unicorns. Anthony Richardson or Jaden Daniels? I struggled with this one. As much as I really love Jaden Daniels' matchup and do believe that he's going to run the ball like 15 times again, even though the coach said that they wouldn't do that. I don't believe in coach speak. When the game's on the line, he's going to do what he's got to do. But Anthony Richardson, I think, has an sneakily good matchup against Green Bay. So we heard a lot about it on the broadcast for the Brazil game about how Jalen Hurts' best career rushing game as a quarterback actually came against the Green Bay Packers. Historically, they've been susceptible to the running quarterback as well. If you think about Colin Kaepernick in that playoff game where he diced up the Green Bay Packers defense. And I think that bodes well for Anthony Richardson, because while they're obviously going to be planning around Anthony Richardson, we'll see if they're able to basically take their defense that they implemented on Jalen Hurts and apply it to Anthony Richardson. If that's the case, Anthony Richardson might actually struggle. I don't know if they're going to be able to carry that defense straight over. And if it doesn't, then Anthony Richardson could actually be in for an even bigger game than people are expecting. And regardless, I think this defense is going to get tired because Malik Willis is not going to be able to keep this offense on the field for very long. And so I expect Anthony Richardson, whether he's throwing cannons down the sideline or just running down the middle of the field on them, I actually think he's going to have a really good game. And again, it's a tough call, but I would go with the bigger unicorn, I guess, in that case. And then they had also asked, I have to scroll up here because it cut off the bottom part of the question. ETN or Neighbors in full PPR flex. I would still go with Travis Etienne, if not for getting that one touchdown punched out right in front of the goal line. He has a much better day last week, and he still had a decent fantasy day. So I would still roll with Travis Etienne, even though tough matchup against the Browns' run defense. But that's why I think you could even see a little bit more receiving work. So I still roll with Travis Etienne there. I like Neighbors a whole lot, and I know Washington's defense is trash, but so is Daniel Jones, and he's still a rookie, and it just scares the hell out of me. I see people projecting. This is where I feel like, again, fantasy wish casting going up against just real life NFL football. I understand the Commanders' defense is not good. They are still NFL level talents that made the NFL. They're going to be playing against Daniel Jones, and Malik Neighbors is still a rookie, and I don't think he's got like that, consistency factor. It was a nice opening game last week, but it was like 6 for 60. to just say that he's going to have 100 yards. And it was a harder I don't know. I know Neighbors extremely talented. The whole situation makes me nervous to just be like, oh, yeah, he's going to go for 100 yards and a touchdown. That's just not how I play the game. So I would still roll with the starting running back on the team that I like and think had a rougher week one than I was expecting. So I still think the Jaguars offense could get a little bit better. All right. Again, if you guys out there watching have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll prioritize them over the fantasy forum, but otherwise we will continue. Seahawks or Jets defense? I'm going with the Seahawks here. This is less about the defenses and more about I just really don't believe in the Patriots offense. And as much as Will Levis, now granted, we did really well betting against Will Levis last week. Last week when I had this question and Will Levis was involved, I said Chicago Bears, even over the Saints, who had a killer day too. But the Bears were even better. It was because of the turnover factors from Will Levis. That does give me a little bit of cause for pause. But I think, again, Will Levis and the Titans themselves will be looking to bounce back if he can get some of those receivers involved. I mean, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and even Tyler Boyd are a talented trio of wide receivers. I don't know that Nuke is necessarily going to be fully available, but I know Calvin Ridley is. And, Chigo Okonkwo is a slightly above average tight end. Like I kind of view him in the same sense of like David Njoku, but like a younger David Njoku, if that makes sense. So I think he's better for a real life NFL offense as opposed to fantasy football. But I don't know, something about this game and just something about the Jets. I think, everyone was very happy that Aaron Rodgers survived. And it was a really tough 49ers team. I kind of want to see this. To me, is very much the game of if the Jets can't come out and convincingly win this game. Like if the Jets come out and piddle the fuck around and barely beat the Will Levis led Titans, like I'm not going to feel good about their prospects for the rest of the season. But if the Jets can come out and just kick the shit out of this team, then I will feel a lot better. Until I see that kind of juice from the Jets, I think I would still take the safer play of the Seahawks against the Patriots. Like the Patriots won their game last week and had 16 points. And the Seahawks are an above average defense. There is, Will Levis, though, there's just something that tells me like Will Levis probably throws a pick six somewhere. That's the only thing that really is giving me cause for pause here. If you really just hate Will Levis and you hate people who eat banana peels and mayonnaise in their coffee and all the weird shit that he does, just lock in the Jets and just blindly do that. I feel like that's definitely the bigger upside play, but I also think that could burn you more easily. Like to me, the Jets are 5 points or 30 points. Whereas like I see the Seahawks as like a very even, 10 to 15 with a little potential for some upside there. All right. Okay, this was a good question that I wanted to get into also, because obviously the kerfuffle with Christian McCaffrey and his injury status, and now we're starting to see it already, the injury bug amongst the NFL. So I'm just going to scroll up to this guy's roster who asked the question. If I can find it here. So it was a great question, but I'm not finding it, of course. Anyways, so basically the question was, he has Jordan Mason. It's a half PPR league. His friend has put CMC on the trade block now that he is on IR. And this guy's wondering, well, since I have Jordan Mason, should I not attempt to trade for CMC? Now, in theory, I actually really like that idea. Here, I found it. Now, here's the problem. Here's his roster. So he's got CJ Stroud, and then he's got Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson. Awesome. But then he's got AJ Brown dealing with his own injury, Tyreek Hill, Jake Ferguson dealing with his own injury. And then he's got Jordan Mason in the flex. Nice. And then going with the Manders defense against the Giants and a kicker, whatever. And so on the bench, he's got Brandon Ayuk. So I'm assuming that's also the one who was asking Ayuk over AJ Brown, potentially because of the injury. So he's got Ayuk, Keon Coleman, Jaleel McLaughlin, Josh Palmer, Colby Parkinson, Zamir White, Jameson Williams, and Marshawn Lloyd on the bench. So the problem is, what could you potentially trade there for CMC without hurting your team? Because you're going to have to just hold CMC on IR. And then it's not just that you're holding CMC on IR, it's that when CMC comes back and is fully back, it's technically wiping out the asset that is Jordan Mason. So I think the real answer here is seeing your friend overreact and put CMC on trade block because he's on IR means to me that your friend might be willing to pay up even that little bit more for Jordan Mason. And I think that's the better play, is if you can trade Jordan Mason potentially for a startable running back. A perfect example would be like a Brian Robinson, who I think is undervalued smash play this week against the Giants. David Montgomery is another guy that had like 14 dome games and is the clear workhorse lunch pail running back that they rely on. And then Jahmyr Gibbs is their electric receiving running back, and they have a role for both in the offense. So that's another one that I like. And in a world where you were going to try to trade for CMC, I feel like you're going to have to give up too much. Like off the one big game, I would be fine giving away Jameson Williams, but then the guy's probably not going to take like Jameson Williams and Zamir White for CMC, even though CMC is on IR. Just as an example, like I feel like you're going to have to give up at least Ramondre Stevenson, and there's no way I'm doing that right now because that's just going to leave a huge hole at your RB2 spot now that you're going to have to deal with. Like, yeah, you could run Jacobs and Mason and Ayuk in that flex spot, but then what if you have to cover AJ Brown with the injury? Again, so many caveats and dominoes and factors. I would not be trading away viable pieces for CMC. I would be, again, trying to look at that manager and say, hey, look, I've got Jordan Mason. Let me get, throw Jordan Mason and Jameson Williams at him and see if you can get like a Tony Pollard and Tyler Lockett. That would be the perfect kind of trade I would be trying to pull off right now, where you get still a good running back and maybe a slight, downgrade at the wide receiver, but then you're projected to have that running back on a season-long basis and not lose them once CMC does come back, theoretically speaking. And then the worst case scenario is if you trade for CMC and he never comes back, then you're really fucked. So yeah, I think I would just explore trading Jordan Mason to that desperate manager. Somebody asked here, holy shit, Baker Mayfield or Patrick Mahomes? As much as I love Baker Mayfield and as much as I love that matchup, I am still playing Patrick Mahomes. Like I would just play. That's studs over matchup. If I've ever heard of one, is definitely Mahomes over Baker Mayfield. And I think the rivalry with Cincinnati goes two ways. I think that gets slept on. It's not like Cincinnati, is coming into this building to just kick the shit out of the Chiefs and the Chiefs are just going to roll over and eat it. It's like, nah, if the Bengals show up, it's because the Chiefs are also going to show up, and that's going to be a banger of a game. My only The only thing I would be nervous about, honestly, is the Bengals not showing up because, Higgins isn't going to be there. Their running backs have been downgraded, and Burrow's wrist is questionable. So I'm still going with Mahomes. I can't wrap my head around ever, like, unless they're playing fucking the 2000 Ravens or the 1985 Bears. Like, I can't wrap my head around ever sitting Mahomes for anybody unless it's like some crazy tilted running quarterback league where it's like 4-point passing and the quarterbacks are getting crazy juice from the rushing stats. That's the only way. But in most leagues, and especially Baker Mayfield's not running that much more than Mahomes is. You're relying on both of their arms. I'm still going Mahomes here. That's a tough one though. I get it because Mayfield's got a great matchup. I even took some Baker in some DFS lineups. Oh, all right. Let's see where we're at in these questions. Kind of losing my place here. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. If I have oh shit, I gotta scroll up and find that question actually, because it was like cutting off again. Great podcasting, right? Oh, this one was a crazy one too. Should I give up Marvin Harrison Jr. and potentially Amari Cooper to get Jaden Reed? Like, no, that's the worst. Oh, that's like the most crazy week one overreaction that I've ever heard of. You're trading away 2 wide receiver ones to get a wide receiver 2 on a team, or arguably the wide receiver 1 if you want to really twist hairs about it. But I'm saying, like, you're getting a guy on a team where the quarterback just got hurt and Malik Willis is going to be in for the foreseeable future. Like, no fucking way would I do that. That's insane. That's like, honestly, that's the kind of shit that is. Okay, let me ask. Actually, this begets a better question. If you are a league manager and across the wire you see an accepted trade of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Amari Cooper for Jaden Reed, are you actually putting that trade through? It's not collusion. Like, this guy's asking a legit question. Like, let's just say for sure it's not collusion. Are you still putting that trade through? Because I'm not. I'm the type where I'm going to talk to both managers. I'm going to be like, look, first of all, the first manager that I'm going to go talk to is the manager that was going to get Amari Cooper and Marvin Harrison. I'm going to be like, look, and I know this is bullshit, and I got to give that guy a mulligan. And if I see some shit like this again, he's out. Like, I would kick someone out of the league over making trades this fucking stupid. Because it ruins the integrity of the league. And again, even if it's from a place of the person is not colluding and they're just trying to galaxy brain fantasy and just wildly overreacting. Just, again, this is just so stupid. Like, there's no way around. There's no way to be nice about it. This is just a stupid ass trade. So that would be the first conversation I have is with that manager. And then I got to go to this manager and be like, look, you need to fucking sign up to some websites, my guy. I'll give you some recommendations. You need to follow some podcasts. Like, you need to learn some shit, because this is, again, such a bad trade that it could potentially break the integrity of the league. And if you keep making moves like this, I'm going to have to dump you as a manager, because I can't have this in my leagues in terms of just, like, again, the integrity, but also just the competitive nature. Like, I don't want to win and lose because you're a fucking idiot who just, like, is making crazy fucking trades like this all the time. So managing a manager like that can actually be more difficult than any other aspect of fantasy football. But that's how I would approach it, is like, you get a mulligan. I'm like Spider-Man. Everybody gets one. Like, you do this shit again, whoosh, I'll fucking cut your ass. And if I'll cut people, and I've done it, and there's ways to do it. respectfully and politely, right? Again, I have leagues where the buy-in started small and grew over time. And that's always, I think, the best excuse is to explain to someone like, hey, the buy-in is getting bigger. This league is getting more competitive. I don't think it's suitable for you. And a lot of times they're self-aware enough to be like, yeah, I agree. And you can just respectfully remove them from that league. And a lot of times what I will do is because I have so many leagues, a lot of times I'll be like, but I got this other league. And it's like some clown fucking $25 who gives a shit type of league. And I'm like, I'll put that person in there and they can fuck around and find out and do whatever they want. Or free leagues, are the best. I don't play in any free leagues anymore unless they are charity or tournament. But like, I may have actually 2 or 3 floaters that I haven't gotten out of yet. But for the most part, I'm out of all my free leagues. That was one thing I couldn't do anymore. But that's one where it's like, if it's a free league, okay, who gives a shit? But again, any kind of competitive money tournament leagues, like where that's not like a move that's made where you paid $500 to charity to make that trade or something, like, whew, yeah, what a tangent. But yeah, that's one that kind of grinds my gears. Okay. Oh yeah, I was trying all that, and I was trying to find a completely different question. Oh, here we go. If I have Njoku and Ferguson and I have no healthy tight ends, who do I drop? Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton, or David Njoku himself? So assuming there's no IR spot in this league, and also assuming that I couldn't get a trade done for some of these guys, like if I could approach a manager and maybe try to package Tyler Lockett and David Njoku, or Cortland Sutton and David Njoku, and get kind of a low end tight end too. Like if I could get, or even just 1-for-1, like 1v1, like throw Lockett or Sutton at the Hunter Henry manager if they have, if that's just their backup and they're not relying on him, and maybe see if you can peel him off their roster. It's going to be a lot harder to do because of Puka Nakua's injury, but Colby Parkinson was a tight end sleeper that I loved that you probably would have had an easier time trading for before this week, but you might still be able to get that deal done. Maybe if you throw Lockett and Njoku at them for Parkinson and a low-end wide receiver 3 that hasn't hit yet, like a Dotson or a Mooney or something like that, you might be able to get that deal done. But if I'm just forced to drop one of these people because I don't have an IR spot, I'm going to drop David Njoku because we've seen the struggles with Deshaun Watson, and unless Jameis Winston has taken over by the time David Njoku comes back, I think those struggles continue, and that to me means that David Njoku drops from a tier of tight end of holding to streaming. That's how I view it. If Njoku gets picked up, cry me a river. Like, I'm not going to be that upset about it because as long as Deshaun Watson is in as the quarterback, to me, that means that he is a streaming option, not an option I have to hold on my roster. Let's see what else we got here. Again, if you guys want to drop some questions in the chat, please feel free. If not, we'll probably drop out of here a little bit early. I've just been fighting an illness all week. That's why my voice, you can still hear, is not all the way back, but we're getting closer. So I'm hoping maybe a little extra rest today. And I'll be, mostly back for Hearts and Farts tomorrow. We'll be going live tomorrow at probably 7 Eastern. I think I did 6 last time. We might be doing 7 tomorrow because we will have a special guest. This is something I'm going to try and do more of throughout the season, actually. It's just a guy in my league. It's not an analyst. In fact, actually, tomorrow, hilariously enough, he is an analyst, except he is a fantasy hockey analyst that is actually just dipping his toes more into the football world. So very much just a player at this moment in time, not a content creator of any kind for football. And then in a couple weeks, I'm going to get another buddy of mine to come on the show who he could make content if he really wanted to, but he really hasn't kind of made that leap yet. So maybe this will be the push into the icy cold waters that he needs. But we're going to have both of those guys on in the foreseeable future for the Monday reaction shows. So that'll be a lot of fun. Get kind of some newbie reactions. All right, here we go. Jags defense or Eagles defense? Man, I like the Eagles defense a whole heck of a lot. But I do think the Falcons are going to be looking to bounce back a little bit. I also don't like that they're going to be down A.J. Brown potentially. I actually think I would go with the Jaguars defense. I do like Amari Cooper and Jerome Ford in this game, but they could have success independent of the entire team, especially with the way Deshaun Watson is playing. So I think I would still roll with the Jaguars defense. Who should I flex? Devonta Smith, Malik Neighbors, or Drake London? I would go with Devonta Smith there for sure. Again, A.J. Brown potentially going to be out. Here's a good one. Bench one. Ramondre Stevenson, Bijan Robinson, Joe Mixon, or Jordan Mason. So talk about being spoiled for choice. I mean, if I have to bench one of those four, so this is again, I'm assuming that your league in that case is 2 running back, 1 flex. Because this is a good segue into if this was a super flex league. Let's just pretend for a second here. I'm not saying it is because it doesn't say. The answer, by the way, before I get on this tangent, is Ramondre Stevenson out of the 4 if I had to bench one. Okay? All right. Here we go into the tangent. Let's say that this was a team in a super flex league. Very possible. I've done this where I've punted quarterback a little bit, and I ended up getting guys like Justin Herbert, Will Levis, combo pack of Russ and Justin Fields, Bryce Young in a couple of occasions because I thought maybe he could take a small step forward. Doesn't look like it. But anyway, so in leagues like that, where potentially my second quarterback is not a strong play, or if I'm in a league where my second quarterback just got hurt, like Tua Tagovailoa, or if I have Jordan Love, I would play every single one of these running backs in the super flex ahead of all of those jabroni ass quarterbacks that I mentioned, except for maybe Fields, only because Fields is also a running back in disguise who will sometimes throw the ball. Like if Fields wasn't going to run 12 to 15 times for 60 to 100 yards and potentially a touchdown or two, like there's no fucking way I would start him over any of these running backs. So this is, again, just a kind of a reminder that in super flex leagues, you don't have to be bound to starting a quarterback in that spot, especially if you have a great 4-pack of running backs like this. All right, let's get some questions here. Ash, where is Mike Williams in your rest of season PPR wide receiver rankings? So I don't really do rankings. That's not really my style. Just because to me, rankings would change literally every day of the week. My rankings yesterday, AJ Brown was a top 10 wide receiver play this week, and now he's not. It's like, rankings change like farts in the wind, my friend. Where do I view his potential for the rest of the season? I think that he is still working his way back from what was a devastating injury, and I think it is going to take some time for him to get fully comfortable and healthy and working within the offense as the wide receiver too. I do think that what we saw from Allen Lazard is very much the potential of Mike Williams when he is back and fully healthy. The question is, when do I think that is going to be? I would project that to start to happen around week 6 to 8. generally speaking, if you talk about a wide receiver coming back from this type of injury, especially those first 4 weeks of the season, they're really working their way back into NFL game shape. Now, assuming he gets through that healthy and then gets through kind of ramp up work healthy and then is playing, at 100% capacity or whatever he's capable of. Again, I would assume that happens if everything stays on track by about week 6 to 8. If anything comes up injury wise for Mike Williams that is any kind of lingering shit, any kind of hamstring, calf, fucking knee, anything at all comes up for Mike Williams, I'm fucking out. Because of his injury history in particular, if anything comes up, to me, he is a drop. Right now, I would exercise patience if I am in a deeper league or if I have a winning roster. If I'm able to take that hit of just chilling, having Mike Williams chill on my bench because the benches are a little bit deeper in this league or yada, 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 fine. But if this is a 10-man league with 5 bench spots, Mike Williams is absolutely a drop because by the time that he is able to come back, you can't take 6 fucking L's and then be like, oh, well, I got Mike Williams back. That's not going to help you none. So, again, kind of a deeper stash. I do like his prognostications potentially for the back half of the season, assuming that he can stay healthy and get there. But yeah, otherwise to me, Mike Williams is a drop in most leagues. So if I was doing rankings, he honestly probably wouldn't even crack the list. All right. Kyle Singer, shout out to you. ETN or Ford, pick one, full PPR. That's a tough one. Both playing against each other. I'm still going with the more talented running back here in Travis Etienne. The only thing that scares me here is the potential of Jerome Ford maybe getting some garbage time work if the Jaguars are able to get ahead. I do really like Ford, though. If this is, again, a situation, depending what your plays are, I would be trying to get both of these guys in my lineup. If you really force me to choose one or the other, though, again, I think I'm just going to go with ETN because I think he's the more talented player. He's the true starter. I really love Jerome Ford, though. Look, I'm the guy that traded Jerome Ford for Nico Collins in a dynasty league last year. And granted, it was a 16-team league, and I have a shit ton of wide receivers, and I was desperate for a running back. And he came through in championship week for me with 30 points. So I love Jerome Ford. Love Jerome Ford. Oh, man. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna actually just change. I'm gonna go a ballsy call here. I'm gonna actually go Jerome Ford. I think without Njoku, this offense is really gonna go through, or at least try to go through Amari Cooper and Jerome Ford with a sprinkling of Jerry Jeudy in there. So I do think they're gonna lean on Jerome Ford in this game, especially late. If they get down any, I think Ford comes out of this with at least 6 to 8 targets. It's tough. It's really tough, but I do think that they're going to rely on him a lot. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the upside swing potentially of Ford because I think ETN, it's if he hits, it's still going to be nice, but I just don't see this being a game where he goes off for 100 plus and a couple tutties or anything like that. But yeah, I see Kyron Williams and Mason as the 1-2. Yeah, there's no way they're coming out of the lineup. It is definitely a tough question, but I appreciate you being in the chat. You were also, so again, situation like this, I think you got to trust your gut and just make that gut call because, if ETN outscores Ford by 3 to 5 points, the only way it feels shitty is if you lose your whole matchup by 3 to 5 points and then you're like, but no, I think I would just go with your gut here and I would just go with Jerome Ford. All right, I'm gonna grab another talk. If you guys got any more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I'm gonna grab another Toski here of the Holy Grail Kush. I order my shit all the way from BC. It's actually not that big of a thing. There's a website that I use. It's legal here, so I just go on this little website and boop boop boop, pick the ounces I want. They get sent right to my house. It's funny because I remember a time when it was illegal and it was like such a big deal back then. I used to say like, it's so fucking stupid. Hey, my guy Hoove. Good morning, handsome. You should be on here with me if you're up this early. Fuck. I didn't realize you were such an early riser. I'm gonna have to get you on one of these shows at some point. Ask me a question. Help me out, Hoove. What do you have for a question? JSN or Lad McConkey today? I'll tell you what, it's Lad McConkey. My guy Lad McConkey. Already. Here's another one. I got this hilarious bet now with Sleazeball. So shout out to Disco and Sleazeball. They're going to be going on at 10 a.m. I think it's on Sleazeball's channel. If you're not familiar, it's My Mind is a Weapon podcast. I think it's at Sleazeball FF. But they're going to be going live right after this at 10 o'clock. I was on Disco's show yesterday with Sleaze. We made a bet. This is, again, what I'm talking about NFL history and just football versus fantasy football wish casting. We made a bet that Sam Darnold is going to have over under a certain amount of pass attempts. The bet was 40 pass attempts. I'm like, God damn, 40? You're going to give me, bro, I'll take that money all day. So we have $100 on on Sam Darnold over under 40 pass attempts. So if he goes under 40, 39 or less, I win. By the way, Sam Darnold in his entire fucking career has gone over 40 pass attempts 7 times. And a lot of that was like with the Jets, like when they did suck and were coming from behind and let him throw it all over the yard. But in his entire fucking career, 7 times. And it was because we were arguing too about Justin Jefferson, and they were like 15 to 20 receptions easily for Justin Jefferson. I was like, y'all realize Justin Jefferson in his entire fucking career has only had 16 receptions 5 times, which is amazing to say, but that's his career high. There is no world where he's getting 20 receptions with Sam Darnold throwing the fucking ball. And by the way, Sam Darnold threw the ball 24 times last week in his amazing game. He completed 19 of 24 for 200 yards and 2 tutties and an interception. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Anyways, I love Sleaze. He's really good best ball mind. But again, this was me. This is where I feel like, again, real NFL football just comes into play against fantasy football. And I'm like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. See, this is an easy one. Gardner Minshew over 19 pass attempts. Like, yeah, of course. 19 pass attempts is fuck all in the NFL. Anthony Richardson had 19 pass attempts. He only completed 9 of them, but literally 19 is nothing. Most NFL quarterbacks are going to complete on average, or sorry, not complete, but they're going to attempt on average between 25 and 30 pass attempts a game. On the high end, you're going to see 40 to 50, which is like crazy numbers. And on the low end, you're going to see, the Anthony Richardsons of the world, kind of where they're getting like between 19 and 24. Oh, completions. Wow. Yeah. Completion. Ooh, that changes it. Damn. 19 completions. Ooh. Okay, let's try and stat this out. If you know what, I would take the over, because I don't think they're going to be able to run on the Ravens is the thing. I think the Ravens are a pretty good defense. I don't think Zamir White and Alex Madison are getting it done against this defense. So I think they're going to end up having to throw. I also think they're going to be playing from behind, which will make them have to throw. Now, it may not be a great game, but I could definitely see a game where he finishes like, this is a game where I could see Minshew attempting 35 passes and completing 20 of them for like 250 and then like 2 and 3. like 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Like that's a very viable game for Minshew here. Again, if you give Devontae Adams 6 to 7 receptions, you give Brock Bowers 5 to 6, and then you have Jacoby Myers and maybe some of these running backs leaking out, getting a couple cheapies. Yeah, I could see him getting to 20 completions. It's going to be tough against that defense, though. But again, I just don't see how they're going to be able to run the thing is like that. And again, to the point of Sam Darnold, it's like they want Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler actively involved in the offense, which means that those rush attempts, which between just like if it was just Aaron Jones, that'd be one thing. But between the two of them, you're talking about like 25 to 30 rush attempts. That's going to take away from the amount of times that they're going to have passing attempts. So yeah, I don't see any world where fucking Sam Darnold's coming out throwing 40 fucking passes this week. But Minshew, I think he would be, if the bet had been Minshew 40 pass attempts, I would have been a lot more hesitant. Like I wouldn't have just thrown down $100 easy peasy like that. So if I'm saying he has the potential even to get close to 40 pass attempts, it also means he has the potential to get close to 20 completions because he would only need to complete a little over 50, like between 50 and 60% of his passes, I think, assuming that he's able to reach like 35 completions. I think if he gets to 35, he needs 66% is what it is. So, all right. Kind of scroll through here and see if we got any more questions. And if not, we can yada yada on out of here. I think I got everything though. Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, we're already into the Thursday game of questions. So yeah, we can move on out of here. Again, shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to my guy HoofTube. We'll have to get him on one of these at some point in the future. Shout out to Kyle Singer and Ash for dropping your questions in the chat. I super appreciate that. Shout out to Fantasy Sports Advice Network because my guy Tyler lets me write for them very occasionally. I don't think I've written anything in at least a month. I should do that. But anyways, I'll be back tomorrow, like I said, with my guy Jay. We'll be back for the Monday reaction show, Hearts and Farts, tomorrow live at 7. Yeah, if not, you'll see it announced on Twitter. But yeah, going live in like 13 minutes. Again, my guy Disco and Sleaze. So if you guys want to jump over to My Mind is a Weapon on YouTube, give them a shout. Let them know the worst sent you. But otherwise, until the next time, I will catch all of you guys on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes